Hello. Hi. How are you doing? Amazing. So, Noel's back. Woo! And Heather. And you've met Natalie, but you've seen her in two contacts. You've seen her on a full drum set. You've seen her on the bass. Now she's doing percussion. Hey, what's good? Dave is here. Woo! And Peter, what? No guitar, but a bass, which is also a guitar, but it's different. Anyway, please stand with us so we can sing together. You know all the songs, by the way. There's just going to be some percussion added. Fancy. Told me the other day you hate yourself and anxiety, depressed and left to death, you'd open up and open wide with a smile. They told you it's clinical, but I seem so critical. Wish I could convince the thoughts that you keep on believing you're alive. There you go, feeling so broken and alone. You walk with your head held so low. You wanna give it most of the day, and that's okay. See someday that you are beautiful anyway. You look in the mirror, please try to see it clearer. How crazy and amazing you are. Let it inside. Be scientific, trust me, no, I get it, but I won't agree when you tell me you don't deserve a life. There you go, feeling so broken and alone. You walk with your head held so low. Most of the days, and that's okay. I hope you see someday that you are beautiful anyway. Raise your hands, take a second and breathe in, singing high, you're for a reason. Raise your hands, take a second and breathe in, singing hallelujah, I'm known and loved. Raise your hands. Take a second and breathe in, singing high, for a reason. Raise your hands, take a second and breathe in, singing hallelujah, wonderfully, awesome and horribly awful, yet somehow it's beautiful anyway. How many miles must it take to break through? How many hours must we wait through to hear the truth? How many moments did I trade in for fakeness? How many chances did I forfeit? Too afraid to miss. I feel your thunder pouring like rain down on the mountains of all my mistakes, rolling like rivers, running with grace into the ocean of your embrace. Your hand on my side, leading the way. 10,000 horses could pull me away. I hear the music heaven has made. Oh, and we're standing face to face. Face to face. How many nights with regret do I swear through? How many lives in the review do I compare to? I feel your thunder pouring like rain down on the mountains of all my mistakes, rolling like rivers, running with grace into the ocean of your embrace. Your hand on my side, leading the way. 10,000 horses could pull me away. I hear the music heaven has made. Oh, and we're standing face to face, 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 face to face. Face to face, face to face, your hand on my side, leading the way. 10,000 horses will pull me away. I hear the music heaven has made. Oh, and we're standing face to face, face to face, face to face, face to face, to face, face to face, face to face, face to face. the garden, come up from this ground at all. You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of us. All around, hope is springing up from this old ground. Out of chaos, life is being found in you. You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of us. You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of us. You make me new, you are making me new.
You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of us.
Oh, you
Make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of
Oh, you make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of us. You make me new, you are making me new. You make me new, you are making me new.
You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of us.
Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Cool. You can take a seat. My name is Jarrett. Hope you're doing awesome today. Give it up for the band one more time. Actually, Natalie, before you leave, how many saw her shaker? Did you see it? Look at that. That's all. I took my son Owen to Guitar Center one time, which was a horrible idea because he wouldn't leave. And so I bought him that shaker, and like apparently it's good for a 4-year-old and a 24-year-old. 22. I was close. Okay, you may notice Heather hasn't left the stage. How rude, right? All right, is your mic on? I thought maybe I didn't leave it on. She's BGV2. Just make sure it's not muted at the bottom.
Hey.
Hey.
Hi.
My bad, y'all. It was my bad. Okay, Heather is awesome. Her and Dave have been in here from the beginning, and she has a really cool announcement that I wanted her to give you because I didn't want to mess up the details. So give it up for Heather.
Woo! Thank you. Hi, everyone. Just wanted to let you know we have a performing arts studio and incubator called the Mars St. Pete, which is just down the street on the next corner. And we are about to celebrate our 1-year anniversary. Yay!
Woo.
We made it! Woo! That was good. So it's going to be on August 29th, and it will be, we're closing the street down on 23rd Street, and we're going to have a street party. And it will be from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. We're going to have vendors there selling their goods. We're going to have music and concert and all kinds of raffles and things like that. So please, please, share the news, come out, hang out with us. It's outside and inside, so whatever your preference, we're going to be there all evening. So thank you so much. And also wanted to let you know that Different Church has been so wonderful in helping sponsor our band that night. So
It's you guys.
thank you
Way to
so
go, you
much
guys.
for everything. We'll see you then.
I told them we would sponsor the band with like the understanding that I would perform with them and I would scat the whole time. Skibidi-bop-a-doop-a-doo. Is that cool? Can I do that? Okay. Okay. Also, cool news. Gianna and Peter are going to be out for the next 2 weeks. Super cool, right? The way I worded that. Just kidding. While they're out, Heather's actually going to lead next week. So, yeah. If you thought she was cool, come back. She's going to lead the whole shebang next week. And then the week after, once again, it'll just be me scatting. Cool? Okay. All right. I should do announcements. Hannah's been in charge of deciding who gets to do announcements for a while, and you notice I haven't been on stage. And so now I'm back. I'm like, I've got a stand-up routine ready to go. But I'll skip it. Okay. The Mar, Heather next week. Today, we're doing Sunday Social. If this is your first time here, we usually hang out after every service, and we go to like a local place. Today, we're going somewhere called Swingers. It's because they have swings, so get your mind out of the gutter. They have you can eat your food in a swing, which is pretty cool. It's on this street and then down a couple blocks. We're gonna just break down for a few minutes after church, and then if you want to hang out, we'll see you at Swingers. We've also got a really cool service coming up at the end of the month. We call it Biography. We've only done it one time, and basically we cut Hannah's time a little bit shorter. And we invite people from the audience to come up and tell stories. And there's a theme every time. So we've invited 4 people to come up and tell stories. Rick's here. I think Rick's going to perform. I don't know if anybody else is here right now. But the theme is going to be rest. Gianna will be back that week. She's going to do like a little meditation at the end. So that's super cool. And then the 21st is a Saturday. We're hanging out at Shuffle from 3 to 5. We would love it if you came out and shuffled with us. Okay, I'm leaving. Thanks. Here comes Hannah. Woo! Every day I'm shuffling.
By shuffle, he means shuffleboard. If you know how to play shuffleboard, come hang out. If you don't know how to play shuffleboard, I don't. Also come hang out. We have like 2 whole lanes of it, and they're going to set it up and tear it down for us, which you may not be excited about, but I'm excited about because we set up and tear down everything here every Sunday. So I'm like, wait, we don't have to do anything. We just show up and we just have fun? Yes. Happy Sunday. I feel a little like, today. Hopefully none of you feel that way. I don't want to put that on you. We get to talk about Elijah today. Elijah is pretty cool. We're actually going to read the passage together, and then we are going to discuss as we normally do. So you can follow along on the screen. This is the NLT translation from 1 Kings 19, 4 through 8. It says, "Then he, Elijah, went alone into the wilderness, traveling all day. He sat down under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. 'I have had enough, Lord,' he said. 'Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors who have already died. And then he lay down and slept under the broom tree, but as he was sleeping, an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." And he looked around, and there beside his head was some bread baked on hot stones and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and then went back to sleep. I like him. Then the angel of the Lord came again and touched him and said, "Get up and eat some more, or the journey ahead will be too much for you." So he got up and ate and drank, and the food gave him enough strength to travel 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Sinai, the mountain of God. Now, our story is actually part of a series of stories about Elijah in 1 Kings, and he was one of the great prophets of Israel. So he's like a very famous guy. In the New Testament, when Jesus is on the Mount of Transfiguration, he like has this vision and people come down from the sky. Elijah is one of them. Like Elijah is major in the Old Testament. And yet, he's on the run, alone, in the wilderness. This is kind of remarkable because in the previous chapter, he had won this crazy victory over the prophets of Baal at Mount Carmel. So I'm going to give you the Hannah translation of what happened in the Bible. Elijah is the prophet of Yahweh. Yahweh is the divine name for God in the Old Testament of the Israelites. And then we have Baal, different God. He has all his prophets, specifically 400 of them. Why you need 400? I don't know. Seems like a lot. But Elijah, just one prophet for Yahweh, 400 prophets for Baal. And Elijah is like, "Hey, do you know what we should have? A sacrifice off." Apparently that's a thing. So Elijah's like, "Hey, do you know what would prove we'd have competition? I'm going to make a sacrifice. I got some wood, got some dead animals. We're going to put them over here. And you, 400 people, you make your sacrifice. Get some wood and some dead animals. You put them over there. But no fire. So what you have to do is just pray to your God, and then fire will magically fall from heaven and burn up your sacrifice, and that's how we'll know which God is real." And the prophets of Baal agreed to this. 400 people collectively was like, "This seems like a good idea. We could just pray and fire will come down from heaven," right? I don't know if you've read this story, but it does not happen. So they take all day. 400 people jumping, chanting, they hurt themselves, they fall on their faces, they go crazy all day. Nothing happens. Not even like the slightest whisper of a breeze. Nothing. Is that better? Y'all been praying for the demons in these microphones? It's better than it has been. It's better than it has been. Elijah, not only does he build his altar, he digs a trench around it and then dumps like vats of water on top. He's like, "Oh, not only are you going to fail, you're going to fail spectacularly. I'm going to soak this thing." Meanwhile, Israel is in a drought, mind you. There isn't really any water. So for him to take all of this water and then dump it on the sacrifice, it's kind of like a slap in the face. And then Elijah prays, and the story says that fire comes down from heaven and burns up the sacrifice, the wood, and evaporates all the water. And there's a huge crowd of people watching. They go nuts. It then says that Elijah kills 400 prophets of Baal, which seems like an exaggeration to me. Like, has any of you seen the movie 300? Yeah. A group of 300 people. Like, I don't know anyone, truly, who could kill 400 people. Even if they've been praying all day and, like, hurting themselves and they were exhausted. Like, one person killed 400 people? I don't think so. Samson. Another narrative in the Old Testament that we should talk about sometime. Who just, with a jawbone, and just kills people. Delightful. Teach this story to your kids. It says that Elijah did it. I think probably what's more realistic is that this huge crowd of people is watching this showdown all day. They just get into like a frenzy, kind of like a mob mentality type of thing. And this is what happens. This is what results. Elijah is the catalyst. So he essentially wins. He wins the sacrifice off. Baal did nothing, didn't show up. Baal was sleeping. And then, shockingly, Elijah is somehow on the run for his life in the wilderness. Gee, I wonder why that would be. Maybe because he killed 400 supporters of the crown. So the news gets back to the king, the queen, furious. They're like, Elijah is an enemy of the state. Not only is he supposedly killing 400 people, he like whipped this whole crowd into a frenzy, and he killed all of our prophets of Baal, and it's just terrible, and it's embarrassing. It makes us look weak because we've been worshiping Baal, even though Our law says we're only supposed to worship Yahweh. We've been worshiping Baal, and we must have done something wrong. Baal must be mad at us because he did not come down and burn the sacrifice. So Elijah is branded as this enemy of the state, which of course he was. I don't think this is unreasonable to think that the king and queen would be very upset by the fact that a crazy mob happened and killed a bunch of people. So Elijah takes off running for his life. And this is where we find him. He's going to the wilderness. So he's traveling with his servant. He gets all the way to Beersheba, which is the southernmost border of Israel. And then he leaves his servant behind, and he just keeps going for another whole day, hoping he can find some safety and some peace. But he doesn't find any safety. The wilderness is not really a safe place. It's dangerous. There's nothing there to support life. There's a reason he's not followed there. There's no food. There's no water. Aside from that, there's wild animals and extreme temperatures. The desert in Israel is hot. He is just worn out. He's stressed out beyond all reason. The heat is unbearable. He has no water left. And he says, I have had enough. Now, if this were like a normal Pentecostal church, that would be like, have you ever been in a place in your life where you have said, I have had enough? Can I get an amen? He literally, I would think he would almost be a little more dramatic about this. He's not like, God, how could you let this happen? He doesn't even have a rant. He's too tired to even do anything. He's like, that's it. I'm out. Take my life. And he falls asleep under a broom tree. He just can't do anything else. Unless you have a false image of what kind of place Elijah was in. This is a picture of a broom tree. Just a little bit of shade, right? Not much, though. I don't know if you've been outside yesterday. It's pretty hot. Can you imagine being outside for more than one day just with that? Anybody in here, get third-degree burns from sunburn? This would be no food, no water also. Just hanging out under a broom tree. Broom trees don't need very much water to grow. Elijah is in the desert. He's in the wasteland. Heat is unbearable. He just wants to die. He is at the point where it feels like, oh gosh, it would just be better if I wasn't even living anymore than for me to try to continue to survive at this point. It's futile, it's pointless, it's impossibly hard. I think maybe it's easier for us to relate to Elijah at this point than it is at other points in his story, because there's images of Elijah speaking directly to God. There is these images of him calling down fire from heaven to burn things to dust. There's images of him inciting this mob of people to kill other people. We can't really relate to Elijah, I hope. I hope you're not well, I did really relate to Elijah when he was murdering people. Let's talk afterwards if that was you. But then we find out actually he's just a regular human. After all, he has all these feelings of failure and despair and defeat. And it seems like he has at least some form of PTSD. After all, there was an event that happened, even if we don't take literally that he himself killed people. 400 people died, and he was part of that in some form or fashion. Can you imagine? The things that we go through when a loved one passes away, 400 people he witnessed no longer existing. And now he's alone. He can't bring himself to take his own life. So he begs God to do it. It would just be better if I just didn't wake up. And God, this is so interesting because God hears this. He's like, I see, Elijah, you're exhausted, you're angry, you're hopeless, and you want me to do something. And you are asking me very specifically, take my life. And God doesn't agree with him. God's not like, you know what? You are worthless. Do you know what you did? I came down from heaven. I gave you the fire that you asked for, okay, and then you have the audacity to be this whiny little person in the desert. You can't even be appreciative of the scraggly broom tree that you find yourself under. I don't know why I picked you as a prophet, Elijah. You clearly don't have the stomach for this. God doesn't do any of that. Do you know what God does? He sends an angel to feed Elijah and sit with him while he sleeps. Elijah is begging God to kill him. And what does God do? He sends a messenger of life instead. Why is this important? Because Elijah is supposed to be the messenger of life. He's the one who speaks the voice of God to the people, and he speaks life, and he speaks life, and then he doesn't have any left. He doesn't have any words left, can't handle it. We can't do it. And God sends an angel. He sends a messenger to the messenger with a message of life and not death. And the angel gives Elijah fresh baked bread. I feel like there's some kind of deep spiritual message here about carbs, right? Like if you're feeling real sad one day, I mean, there's nothing like a big bowl of pasta, maybe I'm speaking for myself, to just make you feel better, give you those good hormones, good endorphins in your brain. What's interesting also, and this is part of why the Bible I find so fascinating to study, we're like, oh yeah, like the angel gave Elijah bread. So what? He was hungry. But this is exactly what Elijah gave someone else 2 chapters before. Elijah comes upon this widow, and she's starving. She has nothing. She's about to die. And Elijah makes it possible for her to have fresh, hot bread and the ability to keep making it. And she lives. And then Elijah gets to where he has nothing, and he is ready to die. And God gives him the same thing that he had given someone else. It's almost like a reminder, like, hey, remember that the message is life. Remember the words that you've spoken to other people. Remember the actions that you did just a little bit ago. You made it possible for someone else to live. Here's that. I'm going to give you what you've given other people. And Elijah's like too tired to even acknowledge. He's like, okay, thanks. He like stuffs himself with bread and then passes out again. But this time, he's not sleeping alone. The angel watches over him. And then wakes him up again. Is like, you know what you need? More bread. Because you have a long journey to take and you have to get your strength up. So Elijah eats more and then he sets off on this 40-day journey to Mount Sinai to meet with God. This is totally a tangent because y'all know I like nerdy stuff in the Bible. So bear with me. Why is Elijah's journey and his destination interesting? Because Elijah is a very important character in the Old Testament, and another very important character is Moses. And Elijah and Moses are like 2 of the biggest people. We find them in the New Testament. Like, in fact, Jesus is compared. They're like, is this Elijah? Is this Moses that he would talk like this? So Moses is a big deal. And Elijah and Moses are compared constantly. And this passage actually draws parallels between Elijah and wandering in the wilderness, and Moses and his wandering in the wilderness. First, both of them pray that they die. Obviously, Elijah's like, I can't take it anymore, I've had enough. Moses prays that he might die and be released from the dreadful Israelites. He's like, God, these people are the worst, and rather than talk to them or see their faces one more time, please kill me. That's so complimentary of the Israelites, right? They literally drove him to want to not exist. So they both want to die, and they ask God. Second, Elijah travels 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Sinai, which is the place where Moses was up on top of the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights receiving the tablets of the covenant, which we know as the 10 Commandments. Moses on the mountain for 40 days, Elijah's in the wilderness for 40 days, and if you know your New Testament, you may find that you remember that Jesus was also in the desert for 40 days, fasting and praying. Now, was Elijah on a journey for literally 40 days? We have no idea. What we do know is that the writer, the person recording the story of Elijah, found it crucially important that Elijah and Moses be compared. And this 40 days theme is one way to instantly make that comparison. The people who heard this, who read it, would have been like, oh yeah, I know who else was in the desert for 40 days. It was Moses. So the writer's trying to tell me something here. It's a literary device. The next thing that makes them similar is Moses and Elijah both ask for special revelation in a moment where they're just completely at their wits' end. Moses is like, these Israelites are the worst. You had better show up, or I'm not doing this anymore. And Elijah is at the end of his rope, and he's like, don't even show up. Don't bother. Like, if you love me, you'll just kill me. And this goes beyond a little bit of what we see in our passage today, but Moses gets this experience with God where he's kind of like hidden in a crack in the rock, and God passes by him, and Moses gets to see his back. And I say he for God because that's the word in the Old Testament in that area. It's a masculine word for God. It doesn't mean God is masculine. So Moses sees God pass by, has this experience, and then keeps going. Elijah actually has a very similar experience where God passes by while Elijah's in a cave. And God sees Elijah, cares for him, feeds him, nourishes him, watches over him while he sleeps, doesn't let him give up. I mean, maybe you've been in a similar place in your life, once or multiple times. You just felt like you were ready to throw in the towel. Maybe not even wanting to really be alive anymore. And yet, God came and provided some nourishment for you. Whether it was God's self showing up somehow, or was it God sending a messenger to you that brought words of life and not death? The more often we hear stories of how God provides, the easier. I should grammar check my notes. The easier it becomes to hold on, to have hope, to hold on to the God of plenty when things seem scarce in our own life. Like, God's grace multiplies miraculously and exponentially. Like, when bread is broken and shared, there's more. It's a God of abundance. There's not just enough for us, there's more than enough for everyone. We talk about this a lot, I think, here, that God is a God of abundance, of enough. It's not a competition for resources. There's enough for everyone. God's economy is one of enough and abundance, and not abundance at the expense of others, abundance that includes others. Abundance that finds people who are lying in the desert under a tree and brings them bread and water and sits with them when they sleep. In our context, maybe it looks like this, like an abundance that finds the person who's sick at home and drops off some soup at their door. Or an abundance that finds the new parents who are at the end of their rope and cleans their kitchen for them. Or an abundance that finds a friend who is really struggling and takes them to a movie and their favorite dinner, just to be together and put a smile on their face. Or an abundance that finds a teenager or a child who's clearly struggling and just takes an hour to be with them and listen to them and play with them. We are going to do something this morning. We don't do it too often because COVID's kind of a ruiner of worlds. And I actually had a different plan for this. We're going to do communion. And it was going to be like really great because I was going to get some fresh baked bread and then, like put it in bite-sized pieces, and then it would be totally tied in with the Elijah thing. It was going to be so perfect. I had plans. However, I know that might be difficult with masks and COVID and so on. So we've changed our plans a little bit. And what we have instead are little like pre-packages, individualized cookies. They're packaged by themselves. And we have apple juice boxes. They don't sell grape juice boxes, apparently. Or if they do, there weren't any at the two Publi that I went to. The Publi. If you're from St. Pete, you know there's a Publix like across the street from another Publix on 4th Street. I call them the Publi. Let me tell you a story. I've told this before, but we have never had a normal communion at Different Church because we started right before the pandemic, and apparently we're still in a pandemic, which I have lots of feelings about. I'm sure we all have feelings about it, and I appreciate all of you for wearing your masks today. It just really is helpful that we can care for our community. The most powerful communion experience I ever had, I was on a trip with some people in college and a couple professors. We were going to this event, and we were just like sitting in a hotel room, and someone brought their guitar because of course they did, because it was college and we were Christian. So somebody had to have a guitar so we could worship the Lord. So they were like pulled out their guitar, they were playing these songs, et cetera, et cetera. And then we just felt like we should take communion. We're like, we should really do this. Like, this is exactly what communion should be. We didn't have any bread. We didn't have any wine, and that also wasn't allowed, okay? And we didn't have any grape juice, so we were like, what are we gonna do? So somebody had fresh-baked chocolate chip cookies that their mom had sent with them on this trip. And we had one unopened bottle of XXX vitamin water. So we took communion with that. And it was awesome. It was the most wonderful communion I've ever been a part of. Why? Because it meant something. We felt that God was with us and that we were doing something really meaningful. I know that communion is weird. Not just because we're doing it with like shortbread cookies and apple juice, but because it's a weird thing. Like if you didn't grow up in church and then you come in and you're like, well, what we're going to do today is eat God. And aside from that, just a little sippy sip of his blood. That's not weird at all. This is how we approach communion. There are no limits here. If you have ever been denied or felt unsafe or felt not welcome to take communion or to participate in the Eucharist or to participate in the Lord's Supper, whatever your faith tradition called it, we do not do that here. Every person is welcome. The question is, do you want to? If you want to, it's for you. If it's meaningful for you, it's for you. I'm not gonna like walk around and check and be like, did you do it? Did you eat God today? I'm not gonna do that. If it's meaningful to you, I want you to participate. And if we have a little table in the back. There's a stack of individually packaged cookies and there's a stack of juice boxes. Someone suggested that I get Capri Suns, which I thought would have been great, except, I mean, I would like to have video cameras set up to record a whole room full of adults trying to stab those straws. And I really don't want to mop up the aftermath, so we got juice boxes that are much easier. Any person who wants to participate can participate. If this is not for you today, you don't need to feel guilty. You don't need to feel like you're missing out on something. You belong already. This is something that you can do that is meaningful for you because you're participating in an ancient tradition that the church has of saying that Jesus has made it possible for us to be together and belong together, that all the hard things in our life and all the terrible things in our life don't have the final word. That when culture says, this is what's going on, we don't say that. God doesn't say that. That God says, you may want to not go on anymore, but my message is of life and not death, of hope and not hopelessness, of rest and not insomnia, of being fed and not being hungry. That's the message of God. So wherever you are today, I'm going to kind of give an overarching blessing for communion, and the band has 2 more songs, and they're going to play. And during the songs, at any point when you feel it's right for you, you can go back and get a juice box and some cookies. And just take a moment. I would just encourage you to take a moment to speak to the divine. So typically the way that communion goes depends on what tradition you're from, of course, but you come up one by one, and then I say the thing, and then you take in my tradition we had like tasteless wafers. They're terrible. Some traditions have wine, some traditions have fresh baked bread. That was my goal for today, someday. But I'm just gonna give the overarching blessing. So when you take the cookies, it's not important that it's a cookie. It's important that when you take a bite, you realize that the community of faith accepts you for who you are. That God has made it possible for you to be celebrated and to belong. That when the words, "This is my body broken for you," are said, that means that Jesus gave up his own life so that we could have enough, so that we could have abundance, to show show us that there's something more important than ourselves. And when you take a sip of apple juice, you might say, this is my blood shed for you. It's because we already belong. It's because all the terrible things that have happened or that we've done or ways we've harmed other people and the ways we've harmed ourselves don't have the final word. And then we get to be a community of faith together and support each other and find our way out of the wilderness together. So I'm just going to pray really fast, and then the band will take it away. And then as you're comfortable, if you don't feel comfortable taking off your mask for a second to take a bite or take a sip, you can take it with you. But I just encourage you to have that moment before you do that, where you really just quiet your heart and quiet your soul and communicate with God in some form or fashion. Let's pray. God, thank you that you're so much bigger than strawberry cookies and apple juice. And that you're so much bigger than all the people who said, no, you can't participate in communion because there's something wrong with you. We know that the community of faith is a place sometimes of great harm. And we hope to change that completely and make it a place of great love and great acceptance and great affirmation and great hope. And maybe it's as simple as sitting with someone while they sleep. And maybe it's as complex as undoing all the ways that we have learned to dislike ourselves and to make ourselves feel small. We're grateful that you are in us and with us and around us. Keep our interactions with each other healing. Amen.
So, if you would, please stand with us. It'll make it easier when you go to get your communion, because you'll already be standing. Come thou fount of every blessing, to my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest rain. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mountain fixed upon it, mount of God's unchanging love. Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I've come. And I hope by thy good pleasure safely to arrive at home. Jesus sought me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God, he to rescue me from danger interposed his precious blood. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor, daily with you. Born to wander, Lord, I feel it. Born to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, oh, take it, sailing. Sailing for thy course above. Born to wander, Lord, I feel it. Born to leave the God of love. Here's my heart, oh, take it, sailing. Sailing for thy courts above. From the fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount I'm fixed upon it, mount of God's unchanging love. This is the last one. Coming now from the dark days, turning back to you, to a love that is stronger, calls me from within. Now I rest in your goodness, I will trust your hand. I will cling to your promise to make me new again. Don't stop, let your love, let your heart change me. And I'm my love, all my heart. Don't stop. You are the one I want. I can see how you're moving. You heal my heart of stone. I can see how you walk with me. And I never go alone. Don't stop. Let your love and let your heart change me. And all my love and all my heart. Don't stop. You are the one I want. Father, move us, Spirit, lead us to a new place, to a new day. Father, move us, Spirit, lead us to a new place, to a new day. Father, move us. let your heart change me. All my love and all my heart, don't stop. You are the one, Lord. Sing, don't stop, oh, don't stop. Let your love and let your heart change me. All my love and all my heart, don't stop. You are the one, Lord. Father, move us, Father, move us. Spirit, lead us to a new place, to a new day. Father, move us. Spirit, lead us to a new place, to a new day. Father, move us. Spirit, lead us to a new place, to a new day. Father, move us. Spirit, lead us to a new place, to a new
Thanks for coming, y'all. There's something very cool I want to share with you. Does anyone just love the book of Genesis? Oh, no one. Shocking. I love the book of Genesis, even though it's one of the most misunderstood and ridiculous and complicated and crazy, frankly, books of the Bible, and one of the most controversial. So if you want to have an argument about literal creation, like the first couple of chapters in Genesis, like start serious faith arguments. We are going to do a whole series on Genesis. We've actually never done a series before here, but we're going to do one because Genesis is fabulous and because we take the Bible seriously. We ask questions, we ask the hard questions of the Bible because we care deeply about it and how it's been used and how it's continuing to be used. So if you're interested in that, that's coming in September. I'm very excited about it. If you are new around here, you can pull out your phone and go to diff.church, diff.church. Tell us how you found us. You can, everyone can go there, tell us what you're praying about. We would love to pray with you. We will not reach out. If you submit like what you're praying about, there's a box that says you want to be contacted or not. So if you want to keep it kind of private, just don't check that box and we will not bother you. Otherwise, we will bother you. Prepare to be bothered. You can volunteer. You can do all kinds of stuff on diff.church. We're going to Swingers today, and I just want to say they have a fabulous $10 burger. I ordered it. Jared and I went there recently, and I ordered it. I was like, whatever, it's going to be a burger. And then it came, and I was like, all right, it looks fine. And then I bit into it, and I was like, this is great. And it's $10. So I'm a fan. We're going to tear everything here down. It's down on Central if you want to come hang out. Otherwise, we will see you next week at different church. And now we have a benediction, which is our way of saying, go be awesome, and also reflecting on God at the same time. Let's pray. Community means we don't have to have it all, or know it all, or be it all. In community, there is space for the complex reality of our being. In community, we have the honor of putting each other at ease. Holy God, in your faithfulness, regulate us. Steady our breath and match it to the rhythm of your sacred invitation. In your steadfastness, ground us like roots. Reach into the nourishment of the soil. Go forth, beloved ones, in the Spirit of God, who nourishes us even in the wilderness and calls us to our true selves. Amen. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week.